Well, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Jon, interesting and inspiring people. And today I'm very excited to have with me author and entrepreneur Stephen Scoggins. And it's March 2nd as we are taping this. And this is a big day because today is Stephen's launch date for the Journey Principles. 10 simple principles for a life journey that matters. And we're going to talk about this book. Stephen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. I hope you are.
Oh, I am doing awesome. You know, why don't you give a little bit of background on kind of where you are right now, and then we'll take that and we'll talk about the backstory, which is the journey of how you got there.
Sure. So a quick, where I'm at right now in life is happily married with 2 kids. So that'll be an interesting point.
Excellent. Yes.
As we kind of get into the book. In my home studio, preparing for audiobooks and podcasts of our own. So we're getting excited about that. I currently own 3 different companies, the largest of which is a $36 million business with over 400 team members across 3 states. And that's pretty much where we're sitting right now. I'm just excited to honestly share a vision and hopefully to catch fire and people will get excited about it. So
very cool. And you are in North Carolina, right?
Raleigh, North Carolina, the home of snow one day and 70 degrees the next.
Cool. Well, hey, we have a guest here, and I'm going to ask my guest to step out. So she went back away. I didn't put my on-air sign on the door, but now they know.
Well, it's quite all right. I heard you guys were fighting over the book anyway, so that's great. Thanks.
That's right. Hey, true story. So I got your book, and by the way, it's right here, and I went to read it the other night, and my wife was reading it, and she's like, no, I want to read it. I want to read it. And so we're fighting over the book. So you're going to have to send us a couple of copies, and maybe we can give some copies away to our listeners here in a little bit. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Cool. Well, hey, I do want to talk. So the focus of the book is really about your journey and personal healing and how God has kind of really done a lot of amazing things in your life. And let's kind of talk about that journey because, so often we see like where you are right now. Hey, I'm a successful entrepreneur. I've got this big business in North Carolina, worth millions of dollars. And I know you're a big Dave Ramsey fan, and you've been a part of Entree Leadership, and he talks about, a 20-year overnight success.
Right.
And I'm certain that you did not get where you were overnight.
Not even close. I wish it was that simple.
You watch the movies and whether you're watching the Steve Jobs movie or the Zuckerberg movie, they have that montage where they sort of go through like 20 years in 20 seconds.
Right.
And you think, oh yeah, that's how it's going to be. I'm just going to go through the montage. Some of us are living in the montage.
That's right.
Right now. Tell us a little bit about your journey and, what God's done in your life and how you've kind of gotten here and really sort of the transition that you're going to really start promoting a legacy, really what God has called you to do in a very different way. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the quickest way I can probably maybe relate a little bit is it starts with a quote that I heard one time. And I actually first heard from a guy named Chris Lacurdo, who's a good friend of mine, life coach, does a lot of good things as well. And he said, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And when I was going through some things, that quote really kind of stuck out to me when we first started talking about it. And after talking to another author named John Acuff, who encouraged me to go ahead and write this book, we spent a lot of time just really talking and praying. And I literally got on a treadmill, believe it or not, and an elliptical and wrote the majority of this book on an elliptical. It started off with about 300 pages of bio. And then it started off with a bunch of short stories, me asking myself questions. For instance, one of the questions asked, what does it take to change the essence of a man?
Wow.
What is a giver and a taker? Which ironically used to be a short story that I used Tigger and Piglet in, which is a whole nother story. But then it really kind of evolved into, well, if someone heals, then they can in turn heal someone else.
Yes.
By the power of the testimony. I think that evil as a whole tries to keep us quiet, because if they can keep us quiet, they can keep us from sharing our stories of hurt and pain and adversity and overcoming it. And when they do that, we don't give God proper glory. People don't get saved. People don't get healed. And next thing you know, the person who's living right next door, who may have been struggling with something very similar, is no longer has access to actually getting a healing word, if you will.
Yeah.
So far, I've been very fortunate. The pre-launch copies that we sent out to a handful of people, we posted on Facebook and said, "Hey, look, we're 15,000 strong. If we want to send you this book, will some of you guys read it?" And the feedback on Amazon has been fantastic.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that people want to heal. They want a life of purpose. They want to live off the right principles. They really want and desire God's blessing over their life, but most of them don't have a clue how to get there.
And you know what I think is really neat is what I think a lot of people are looking for, and you look at sort of Christianity today, especially here in the United States, they're looking for authentic Christians. They're looking for someone who's really there, really going through the process, and they're living life in an authentic way. They're not perfect. They don't have all the answers, okay? But they're living in a way that they're putting Christ first, and they are being authentically who they are. And out of that process, people are able to kind of get over their own, hurts, habits, hang-ups, whatever they are, because, well, I mean, the scripture says, we overcome by the power of our testimony. Right. And I think that is such a huge thing. And frankly, I think it's actually with Christian men. I was talking about my wife. There's plenty, women seem to know how to talk. And, right. Us men, we tend to know how to do. And sometimes we don't talk as much as we should. And I really think that what you're doing and what you're writing, even especially from a man's perspective, if something is something that's very important, because we need to, we do kind of get into our I'm doing, and we don't want to admit those skeletons that are in the closet.
That's right.
We don't want to admit that we're weak. We don't want to admit that we're hurt. And that prevents us, frankly, from doing what God called us to do and living out our divine purpose and destiny and changing the world, which is what we're supposed to be doing.
That's right.
Cool.
Well, my wife and I clearly defined when we first started dating that we as Christians were going to decide not to condemn or judge others. Mm-hmm. Both of us come from a background of substantial hurt for various reasons. And we both said, you know what? We know what we've been forgiven of. So we're not going to go out and condemn someone else for whatever is going on in their life. But what we will do is we'll try our best to be a beacon of light. Yeah. We will try our best to give them knowledge. We will try our best to be a good ear, ask a lot of questions. You're a fantastic coach. Part of good coaching is just asking the right questions.
Oh, listening and asking.
Yeah, and then letting them find the direction themselves. And, when I intentionally wrote the book, we intentionally wrote it from a point of view of a faith perspective and a worldview perspective. Mm-hmm. My hope was that if someone who was a non-believer picked this book up, regardless of what happened at the end of the book, what decisions they make in their life, will have enough wisdom and enough knowledge to want to seek more wisdom and more knowledge. Yeah. That's why we believe that everyone has a principle, everyone has a journey. And when you take your journey, your personal journey, and apply God's principles, life can be exceeded and abundantly.
Absolutely.
So a little history, when this covers a large majority of my life, including not having parents really around when I'm very young, all the way up to really poor choices in relationships, up to sleeping in a car, being depressed, ready to literally jump off a bridge and having a faithful phone call with a Les Brown quote in my ear. Yeah. It covers a lot of ground. I faced everything from depression, one-on-one, pride. Pride was probably my biggest one. And I think most men really struggle with pride because we want to be the man, for our wives and for work and for our kids. And we don't want to let anybody know we have a heart. That's right.
Or what our weaknesses are.
That's right. That's right. So, so this book was originally planned to be for someone who's just searching. They don't really have enough, what is the word I'm looking for? They don't really have enough feedback or honest feedback. They don't have a close mentor or a coach or someone they can really go to, which is why I love so much about what you do in the coaching and seeking to help people understand themselves. And because, you and I both know once they understand themselves, the whole world opens up.
If you understand yourself, understand how God designed you, you're made in the image of God, and start seeing what his plan is for you, you can start changing the world.
That's right. I have a life verse. I'm sure you have one too, but mine is as iron sharpens iron, so should one sharpen another.
Sure.
Love that verse. it's, I had a guy named Steve Myrick, who you may or may not have read about yet. I'm not sure how, since she's been swiping the book, I'm not sure how much you've read so far, but I should have been, if by all intents and purposes, I should have been an alcoholic, swinging a hammer for somebody else, going in and out of rehab, going in and out of different facilities, getting my head right, and I had one mentor, one guy who said, you know what, you can be more than you're leading.
Yeah.
You can be more than you're listening to. What we need to work on is actually making sure you have the proper mentorship. And I want you to know, he put me in a little Jeep and rode me around in a neighborhood, and for years when I was a teenager, put this wisdom in me, and it never clicked.
Yeah.
He gave me my first siding business. It fell apart. My first construction company, because of arrogance and pride in my heart. I was making awesome money.
Right.
But I was getting, I thought I was the man. I was, 19 years old, and I'm pulling $60,000, $70,000 a year, no debt of any kind.
Hey, life is good.
Yeah. And I thought I was the man, carrying $100 bills in my pocket, thinking I was something. And then, like God does to most of us, he'll get what he wants to out of you. And I deserved a lot more humbling than I got.
Yeah.
God was very gracious and very merciful to me, but he took me through a process over the course of about 14 months that radically changed my life.
Yeah.
And I want you to know, I had to go back to the very same man who gave me that business, that Steve Myrick guy. I had to go right back to him and ask for a second chance.
No kidding.
And to keep in mind, the first time he gave me everything,
Uh-huh.
the second time he says, I'm not giving you anything but an opportunity.
Wow. There's a principle right there.
That's right.
There's a couple of principles in there, I bet.
That's right. It was a hard conversation because I was embarrassed. I was unemployed for a while because of, my choices that I made. I was, sleeping in a car at the time. I had been 3 weeks off of the bridge. In a span of 3 weeks, I moved from being homeless and ready to jump off a bridge all the way to a litter box, trying to earn $50 from my brother. And that's where God met me at a litter box. Of all places, a litter box.
Wow.
But the coolest thing is I figured out that one of the things that he was looking for specifically when he was asking me to clean this litter box, I know it's proverbial, and I'll let the readers read about it.
Right.
Because it's a lot more interesting than I'm letting on.
Hey, good tease for your book. Well done.
Yeah, right. When I'm going through this, I'm literally having a war inside with God, but God met me at the litter box. And what I understood was he never meant for me to empty that litter box. All he wanted me to do was face it.
Yeah.
He just wanted to look at that and say, hey, look, I need your help. Will you help me with this?
Yeah.
And then I got saved. And next thing you know, 3 weeks later, I get a second chance from Steve. And
that is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you what, I literally almost audibly heard the words Custom Home Exteriors, which is the primary business, my largest company. And it started with me 4 years. The first 4.5 houses were all by myself.
Wow.
My father actually tried to talk me out of starting my business the second time because he had a failed business of his own. It's like, hey, look, if you make $14 an hour and, you work hard, then you'll have a happy life, get some wives and, so basically he thought he was doing the right thing.
Sure.
Not knowing what God had already placed in my heart.
Yeah.
But I want you to know, my dad missed the first half of my life. But when I said, no, Dad, I'm doing this. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I have until Monday to figure out how to get some tools together, get some stuff together. I want you to know he pulled his tool belt out of his truck, pulled my nail apron out, and we went to pulling lumber out of the backs of the trash piles, and we built my scaffolding out of trash piles.
Wow.
God will let you use anything and everything that is surrounding you if you'll just let him do it.
That is so true. We get caught up where we want to, well, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. God, won't you give me $1 million? Right? And God said, look, I'll give you a hammer. I'll give you a trash can full of a bunch of lumber. You can go build your scaffolding. You can start. I've given you the tools, and my life verse is, at least it's certainly been for the last, several months, is it's the glory of kings to conceal a matter, or the glory of God to conceal a matter, the glory of kings to seek it out. And it is in that process that we, one, we actually learn what our destiny is. And number two, we actually develop the skills, the disciplines, the character that we need to do it. Because the world does not need any more flash in the pan, talk a good game Christian that does not have character. The world needs people, men and women that are faithful to God, faithful to their families, faithful to their calling
Mm-hmm.
over the long, long haul.
That's right.
And that's what God is looking for, and that's what God, I think, is wanting to see out of people like us, wanting to see that character being built.
Right.
And He'll say, "Here's your hammer, here's your lumber. Go build what I called you to go build."
That's right. And here's a really cool thing about it. That it just struck me when as I was writing the book initially, and that was I could not make the mental leap from where I was at the time to owning a multi-million-dollar business.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make that mental leap. You know, I was telling my team members that we have now one time in one of our meetings, I was like, guys, all I was trying to do was eat and get some shelter. That was my first and primary goal.
Yeah.
You know, but I recently heard John Maxwell say, I was with them and down in Orlando last week, and I recently heard him say, he said something really cool. He said, people focus so much on goals that they miss it. He said, if you'll focus on growth, you'll actually trip over your goals by accident.
That is so true. That is so true.
It stuck with me. It's resonated with me ever since I heard it. And the interesting thing was CHE, the primary flagship business, became a training ground to prepare me for authorship.
Yeah.
And speaking and sharing and talking in churches and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a huge training ground I couldn't see at the time.
And you really are transitioning to your legacy. I mean, you're transitioning where, you know, I'm just finishing up Maxwell's, I think it's his newest book, 5 Levels of Leadership, right? Level 5, you know, leaving a legacy. Yeah, oh, yeah, go. And I mean, that is so awesome, because that's truly where I think God wants all of us to go to. And He's going to use your experiences, your life, your stuff to take you on. Gosh, it's like a journey principle.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Well, hey, real quick, where can we go to? I know we can go to Amazon to buy the book. What's the website that it's launched at? And then I'm going to give away some copies as well to the listeners here.
Sure. We have a couple things. We're developing some free ebooks. We've had a lot of journey principles, what we call the JP Nation, which is ironically a lot of people that we speak to that have done some healing themselves who now will share on Facebook and do some other stuff. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. And we kind of watch it like a hawk and make sure we're not, you know, that nothing's funny's going on there. But we have a couple of relationship ebooks because that's what they said they wanted. They're free. We'll be posting those up in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
They can go to StephenScoggins.com and also find the book there and transition to Amazon. All the local retailers, your Barnes and Noble and places like that on their e-commerce side will have the book.
Okay.
Specifically, we have a church curriculum coming out in conjunction with the book. It's in about 3 weeks, which is kind of exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah, so we'll probably bundling that stuff together shortly. We give a lot of free, e-blogs and stuff like that away through the website. So the coolest thing they can do is if they want to know more information, or if they just want to see what's in the book, we'll actually email them a free chapter. Mm-hmm. They'll go to StephenScoggins.com and just sign up. Takes about 3 days, but we fire the emails off. But that's probably the best source.
Excellent. And then you've got tons of activity going on your Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're really doing fantastic. So, hey, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being part of Coffee with Jon. I'm super excited to get to know you, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen with this. To our listeners, we do have. See, we'll do the cover thing. There we go. We have some copies of the book, and so here's what I'm going to do. If you will tweet me at JShober. If you will tweet me, I will enter you into a drawing, and we'll get you a free copy of the book. So tweet me at JShober, JSCHOBER. Say I heard the interview, and we'll get you a free book. Stephen, thanks so much for being a part of the show.
Absolutely. I got to do one more thing, and I got to let you run.
You bet.
I want your listeners to know what kind of amazing man you are. I've really enjoyed getting to know you the last few days, and I really like the work you're doing. I see your heart and you're passionate. I read some of your stuff. I love I have to get your wife's book. That thing is, I'm excited about that.
We're going to have to work on her a little bit because she doesn't like being outed. She's like, I'm going to have to go on podcasts and I'm going to have to promote I'm like, yes, honey, won't people just come to it? So we're going to have to work on her a little bit.
Hey, if the secret's healing people so they can heal other people, it's God's version of Facebook.
That's right.
All kinds of likes and shares. So
Cool.
Thanks again for letting us come on, man. I appreciate it big time.
Hey, thanks, buddy. You have a great day. Okay.
All right, you too. Take care.
All right.
Bye.